It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
Thanks for joining me, folks. You're watching The Sam Lesante Show. June 2nd, very important, as you know, it's election time. And make sure you definitely vote. In the 123rd Pennsylvania Legislative District, Tim Twardzik is running for state rep, and he's here on set today. But before we talk to Tim, I'd like for you to look at this.
My mother always told me to tell the truth. If you keep the truth, you don't get in trouble. And my father said he wasn't smart enough to be a liar because he couldn't remember what he lied about. But, basically you want to try to serve people. He was able to produce jobs and help his community. I did a lot of community work, and that allowed me to meet everybody here, and they're good people. My father graduated from the University of Notre Dame with an accounting degree and went to work for a big 8 accounting firm. But after a year, he put his resignation letter in and came back home because he wanted to open a business. His first idea was pierogies because his mother made great pierogies with the local church. So around the kitchen table with 5 women, he started making pierogies. Families ran our business. My father always felt proud that if somebody worked for him and they had their child come work for him, so we had sons and daughters working, and we had grandchildren working, and they all deserve a good deal. They've allowed our family to make a living, and share the wealth. That's what I want to do. I want to try to help my neighbors, help our community, and we deserve good government, and I'm hoping that I can step in. And it'll take me a while to learn the system, but you got to give it a try, because if we just sit at home and yell at the TV, we're not going to get any better.
Well, that's Tim Twardzik, folks, and he's here on the set. Tim, very impressive video there.
Oh, thank you, Sam. It's great to be back and see you again. We're old friends from way back when.
Wow, I'm telling you, we go back a long time. Of course, you're a lot older than me, but I want to mention that. Tim, certainly, tell me a little bit about you. I mean, we know, Mrs. T's, pierogies, etc., but tell me about you.
Well, I grew up in a business family and really enjoyed working in our family business. I went away to the University of Notre Dame, where I got my education, and I had an opportunity to come back and work for the family business at the time. People said, gee, do you want to go off and try to work for a big firm? And a person who worked with my father said, your father's a pretty bright guy. If you come back and stay with him, you're going to do okay, and you could expand the business from 3 states where we sold pierogies. So I came back, we did a lot of marketing and pushing, promoting, and ended up in all 50 states, and we're in several foreign countries, and we make 13.5 million pierogies every week.
My gosh, that's what. With that kind of background that you have, and the fact that you said you're no longer actively in the business.
Yeah, several years ago I retired because I was traveling all the time and got worn out. So I sold my shares back to my brothers, and they continue to run Mrs. T's. And I looked for other adventures, and I got involved in some real estate investing, and then I got involved in board work. I've always been involved in the community. My father always wanted to help people, and he felt the best he could do was to create jobs. And in my role in the company, I was the outside person, so I was able to go out and work on an economic development board with SEDCO, or work with the Chamber of Commerce, where I was the president of the Shenandoah Chamber of Commerce, and went on to the Schuylkill Chamber of Commerce and helped the communities there. I worked with the SKIDA board in economic development. I went down to Washington, D.C. with the American Frozen Food Institute, where my political experience was going down and fighting for the rights of frozen food people in D.C., so that was an interesting time. But it also allowed me to become head of the Trade and Public Relations Group. So I sat at tables with people from Ore-Ida and Heinz and Tyson and Swanson, big companies, but they allowed me to get in and do the work. So you learned how to deal with, how to make your pitch to the government down in the federal government.
With that being said, you seem like you worked and sometimes you get burnt out because you said you were always traveling, and now you're able to chance to do what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Then why in God's name do you want to become a state representative with all the craziness that's happening today? And I've always said, I quote a friend of mine from many, many years ago, Ethel Price. She said to me one day, she says, good politicians make good government.
Mm-hmm.
And the word was good politicians make good government. We need them. But why did you decide to just say, I want to be state representative?
Well, I've looked at some politics and helped some candidates over the years, and every once in a while they would say nice things like, Tim, would you be interested in running? The opportunity came to run for this year with our sitting representative stepping down. It's the first time in 52 years that we can try to win the seat back for Republicans. And I took a deep breath and said, this is good for me to try to continue to serve. The reason I want to do it is to try to help our community. They've been very good to us. Again, they helped me have a great living. I raised a family in Schuylkill County. I still live there with my wife Carol. We're enjoying our nieces and nephews. But the people there allowed us to have a good life and make a living, and we want to try to give back. And I think Schuylkill County has not been represented and gotten as much as they needed to out of Harrisburg for many years. So if I could work with the other Republican districts close by, I think it's a much better opportunity for us to do what's right for Schuylkill County.
And you're relating your negotiating and talking with the fact that you were able to sit down, as you said, with major corporate people, major companies, and be able to negotiate different things there. Because this is the negotiations is what it's all about.
Some people say, oh, you're just an SOB, a son of the boss. And that's true, and it gave me a great opportunity, but we also went out and did a lot of work with the opportunities I served on boards, whether it is right here in Freeland. I was part of the MMI school, and we did a nice job there, able to raise money for their library and athletic fields in a capital campaign that raised $7.5 million. I was in charge of that. We also were able to work with our local hospital. Several years ago, I got drafted to work with our Schuylkill health system, and I'm happy to say that over the years, we righted our ship, saved 1,200 jobs, brought Lehigh Valley Health System in as a partner, and that has allowed us to put over $65 million into the properties, save our jobs, and create better health care. And I've worked a whole bunch of different opportunities, whether it's healthcare or with the Catholic schools. I work both locally and on the Allentown or the Diocesan School Board, trying to work toward education. I've worked with the food bank, the Central Pennsylvania Food Bank, for years, and what a great operation. It's a difficult business to run because you're working on donations that come into the business, and you don't know what you have. And every week you empty your warehouse to needy people. And when we were there, we had the tough decision, should we invest and build a warehouse? And we raised the money and built the warehouse and continue to serve the communities.
It's interesting today with, going into political life. It's as I said, it's crazy. You said that, there are some issues that are key. What are some of the key issues, Tim, that you want to bring to the table and hopefully do something about?
Well, there are issues that Republicans believe in. Again, a limited government, the dreaded school tax, but maybe it's time to finally push that over the goal line and eliminate the school tax, because again, it's a penalty to people. You shouldn't have elderly people who've worked all their lives leasing their home from the government. There's got to be a better solution to that.
You have one.
Well, there's a bill now that is not perfect, which shifts the taxes. But we have to figure out how to shift them, because this would allow for better funding, more equal funding, and control some expenses. Mm-hmm. But this is all shot out of the water right now because of the current crisis. With the poor children not being able to get to school, mm-hmm. and the teachers working extra hard to try to still get an education. Mm-hmm. It's a tough time, and it will be an awful lot of problems down in Harrisburg, but I'm looking forward to getting a chance to be part of the solution. I think outside the box, and maybe we can try stuff, because again, it hasn't worked with old people who've been there forever. So let some new people try it.
And that's that. I've been sitting here a long time. I'm going over 3,900 shows. I think I got shows like crazy. But the point is, I remember when, and I'm not picking on Governor Randall by no means, but I remember when he was in office and said when we had the casinos, you know, it would eliminate, you know, property taxes, school taxes. I'm assuming that's what he said. But there was supposed to be elimination because, like you said, there are seniors who worked all their lives, as you know, and now they get hit with school taxes because they have properties that they're proud of. And unfortunately, there are many people that who have children going to school, which is fine, public school, and not paying anywhere near what a person who is trying to survive. Okay. And when I say, all right, so sometimes we need a roadmap as to what way we're going to get this accomplished. Have you been able to talk to any state reps or any senators or anyone about your feelings?
Yes, well, I've worked with the Dave Argel, and I know Dave through working on a board in the Boy Scouts with him. And you know, he's a genuine guy who cares. And they had a vote 24-24 and lost in a, you know, lost the tie. But you know, they are ready, I think, to try to get it forward. And I'm very happy to try to work together with the other representatives. There's so many challenges ahead. You could only do so much. It's going to be a big learning curve to get down to Harrisburg. But I'm a fast learner. I could adapt.
Well, not only that, you have the background, you know, according to what, you know.
There's a lot of experiences, and again, that works. You can't go and bully people. You have to try to get win-win situations. And sometimes you have to give up and be strong enough to take the flack when you come back home and people are mad because you didn't vote this way. But you have to look at the overall long-term picture. Because, you know, politics today have gotten so frustrating. You turn on TV and it's just a fight. And the more I look, it's like, I don't want to get into that fight. I'm going to be a peacemaker and, you know, try to figure out what's best for our community. Because we look at blight in our areas. And that is just such a hard time. When the pandemic came in and Meals on Wheels lost all of their drivers because business people just shut down, so the drivers weren't there, and I got a phone call and they were looking for people, so I put a little post up and we were able, you know, good people showed up and volunteered and are now delivering Meals on Wheels in Shenandoah, Frackville, Ashland, throughout the community. And you know, Carol and I go out twice a week and we have 22 homes, and there are places that I have been in Shenandoah, I haven't been there since I was 10 years old on a bicycle. And we're going down these little streets, and it breaks your heart to see the condition of some of these houses. And you knock on the door, you wear your mask, you wear your gloves, you stand back, you tell them the food is here, and they're happy to see a smiling face. I said, don't watch the news. Everything's getting better. The sun's coming out, and I'll see you on Wednesday.
Boy, and how often I've said this in the last year or two, it's embarrassing for me to be in this business. Because, Tim, when I see the lies and deceptions of the Main Street media, and I know they keep, there he goes, Sammy. No, the fact of the matter is they lie. They lie to the people for their own agendas. And it's such a shame that people are, let's take this epidemic, the pandemic. I'm sure it's bad, but nowhere near, I think, of what they're trying to do and scare people. And I've spoken to doctors, I've spoken to many people. It's just sad. Folks, I'm talking to Tim Twardzik, no stranger to this area at all, Mrs. T's. Tim is running for state representative of the 123rd District. We come back, we'll talk a little bit more about some things. You know, we talk about a lot of things. You know, say talk is cheap, but sometimes we got to do things about them. And I think Tim, in the past, has done things about them. Come back right after this. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. June 2nd. Make sure you vote. That's all I'm saying. Make sure you vote. It's important, particularly this year. Speaking of voting, in the 123rd District in Pennsylvania, state legislation, Tim Twardzik is running for that. Tim, as you know, from Mrs. T's. If you haven't had a pierogi, Mrs. T's pierogi, get one. They're fantastic. They're non-fattening, right?
They're low in fat and high in carbohydrates. The perfect training food for Ironman triathletes and marathon runners all over.
Wow, it sounds like a salesman. You can see you're in marketing. Tim, you know, we talked about, you know, running for office and doing the best that you can. I'm always, I tell so many of our viewers to always look at the substance of the person, okay? And there are a lot of great people running for office, okay? I got to tell you. But I always say, look for the substance, okay, of who the person is, what they believe in. Okay, now I notice here on your outline, respect and support senior citizens and veterans.
Right.
Comment on that.
Well, these people have given us the country we have. And we have to make sure that they're taken care of. And some of that is making sure the medical is there, making sure the VA is taking care of them, making sure that we have taxes taken care of, they're not forced out of their homes.
Well, that's a key, okay? And I've said this, and you probably know this. If you want the solutions to all the problems we have in this world today, talk to senior citizens. Senior citizens lived through all of this.
Right.
They've seen it. They know what it's about. We have a wealth of fortune in front of our eyes with senior citizens, and we don't utilize them. We have all these hot shots that come out of college with MBAs, doctorate degrees, et cetera, et cetera. I have an MBA, and sometimes you know what I can do with my MBA, okay? The point is that through working like your father did, okay, and came up, there's so much you can learn from that. Am I correct in saying that?
And you know, he taught me how to respect people and work with people because, again, he was an entrepreneur and loved good helpers because they would help him be a success. And he always wanted to give as many jobs to people as he could, and sometimes he felt bad that he couldn't hire everybody. And when I worked on economic development with, you know, Frank Zukas at Sedco, you know, great guy, we brought a lot of jobs to High Ridge Industrial Park and kept jobs in communities. People would say, "Why, Tim, why would you go out and recruit more employers? Like a Wegmans, the best place to work in, you know, Inc. 500. Aren't they going to take your workers?" I said, "We can't hire everybody. And you know what? The rising tide raises all ships. It's time to get more good jobs in the community, and then you know, replace the housing stock and more people move in." You know, we're blessed with the distribution centers here. We're trying to get some manufacturing back, but we're getting there. It's before the pandemic, unemployment was very low, everybody was doing well, so now we'll have to get back to that.
Yeah.
And you talked a little earlier about, you know, talking to doctors and, you know, what's your opinion of the pandemic? And people ask me, I said, you know, I'm not a doctor. Although I did play a doctor on Creed 2, the movie, because I've got my Screen Actors Guild card, so every once in a while I'm doing some background acting. Yeah. And that was a lot of fun, but I only play one on TV, I'm not a real doctor.
Yeah, okay. The thing that I'm saying with that is, as we know, it is very contagious. The thing that we know is that the majority of the people who are dying, unfortunately, are seniors. The other people who are dying, according to, again, statistics, are people who have pre-existing conditions or, you know, and so now it's serious, but I don't know how serious it is that, you know, we're always concerned about the politics of it. So I'm talking to some state representatives and some senators, and, you know, I talked to 6 Democrats and 6 Republicans today. The 12 of them agree it's a political thing now, okay, which is very sad. What would you do?
Well, I would try to get the best information, but you have to look and share the information. Our problem is our county tried to go to yellow, and, you know, we're berated by the governor, and now we have to try to negotiate again to reopen, but it doesn't seem fair because we can safely operate these businesses. It's not right for him to pick winners and losers. You know, big box stores get to stay, but, you know, when you have 500 people in a big box store, why isn't my little store allowed to open up for 3 people and make his living? The restaurants are really in trouble. A restaurant in Shenandoah, Vernalis, has been there 3 generations, and 90% of his business sits in the booth and has a coffee and breakfast. How is that? He can't do the takeout to keep his doors open. So he's struggling. And we look at the seniors. My mother's at Providence Place in assisted living in Pottsville. And God bless her, she's been locked down for 8 weeks. We can talk to her on the phone. We go to visit her and stand outside her window and talk on the phone. And she goes, where am I living? Is this America? I said, turn off the news, Mom. And she told my brother Tom, she goes, well, this is sure something. I'm standing in front of a window, talking to my son on a phone like he's in jail. Yeah. If you ever went to jail, I would have to. So, yeah. Mom, I said, I think you're the one in jail.
Yeah.
But she's in good spirits. The people there are taking good care of her. They're doing all they can, following the protocols. And, that's what's trouble. We need to protect our seniors in nursing homes. We need to protect the people. And the hospital needs to reopen. Again, we need the elective surgeries. People need other health care. And the good news is, because we did our planning, we are now able to do that. So please let us open.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. My father-in-law is down here at Fritzingertown, and it was funny because my wife and I go there, and we were able to go in the back, and we lucked out, and we were by the window, and we were able to, and he's looking at our mask, saying, "What do you know with these masks on?" But it's. I think sometimes we take things to extreme. Going into politics, and like I say, Tim, I admire anyone going into politics. Why, you have to have a strong desire for that. What you want to do. Are you prepared for the lies? Are you prepared for the fact that you are a conservative, Republican, pro-life, Second Amendment person? You're concerned about unwanted, and you're not the favorite of the wacko liberal media, right. Okay? So they will do everything they can to make you look like a schmuck, okay? Are you prepared for that?
I'm trying my best to thicken up my skin and put on the armor, but in my heart, I know I like to help people. And this is the next logical step. I've helped my community and the area, and now let's try one more try in Harrisburg, because the opportunity is there. It was such a Democratic stronghold. Now that it's open, let's win this seat. The last time it was won was my science teacher, George Uritis, in 1966.
Wow. Wow.
So I want to follow his footsteps and go down and try to do some good work in Harrisburg.
Well, you're going to have thick skin. Folks, I'm talking to Tim Twardzik. He's running for the 123rd Pennsylvania Legislative District. A lot of great people running for office. Check their backgrounds. I'll be back to wrap it up with Tim after this message. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. SSPTV.com is where all our shows are. You just go to your phone, Google SSPTV.com. Tim Twardzik is here on the set. He is running for state representative in the 123rd District. Tim, people know of you, Mrs. T's, etc. If they're just tuning in, they can certainly watch the show a zillion times. There's your camera right there.
Okay.
People are watching you, and they want to know, why should they vote for Tim Twardzik for a state representative in the state of Pennsylvania? Tell them why.
Well, Sam, I appreciate the chance to talk to the people of 123rd, because it's been a tough campaign. You can't knock on doors, you can't kiss babies. So you have to try to figure out how to get your message out, and I really appreciate you letting me do it here. Why would I run? Because I like to serve. My history is I have served people, whether they worked for our business or whether they worked in our community, on different boards and different activities. I have a whole realm of experience. And I think experience is what's needed in Harrisburg to get through these tough times. I've negotiated, I've run events, we've done a lot of things in the field, and I'm not afraid to roll up my sleeves, get my hands dirty. Sometimes I'm not the best delegator, and I will learn to do that better. But if we have the opportunity to turn the Schuylkill County and the 123rd to Republican, we'll be able to work with our other Republicans in surrounding counties and make our place a better place to live.
You know, it's interesting because as many times I tell our viewers, no matter who's running, you know, your opponent, check them out. You know, there's, you know, you have a website. What is your website?
Tim2020.org.
Oh, that's easy.
Yep.
Tim2020.org.
Yep.
But learning about the people, because substance of an individual is so very important. Okay.
Right.
Please
the good news is people no longer just vote ticket. They're
God,
looking at the right
hallelujah.
candidates.
Boy, I'll tell you, Tim, I'm so happy to know that, because I tell people, don't do that. Now, if there happen to be a lot of great people on your ticket, fine, but you're 100% right. Tell your mother I was asking about her.
I sure will, Sam, and I look forward to seeing you at Vito's again soon.
Yes, yeah, my buddy Vito. Yeah, I miss it. I miss it a lot. Folks, Tim Twardzik running for the state representative of the 123rd District. Check out the candidates, see who qualifies, but please vote. We'll see you next time.